Hi. Okay, so thanks for coming to our talk on, I don't know if it's here. We are the Better Trends Company, and we are really excited to be here and be the official trends partner for JFS. If you haven't been to Hall 1 and seen our trends installation, please do. Something we are about as a company is democratizing trends and giving people access to trends that isn't super abstract and weird, I guess, that some people consider. So we've built an amazing trends installation, and it involves beautiful colors, beautiful prints, and brings some of the trends that we're kind of going to mention in this talk. It really brings them alive. So that's a kind of hint to go straight to Hall 1 after this talk. So we're going to kick off by introducing ourselves and then talking a little bit about the subject of our talk, which is Trends Are Dead, Long Live Trends, which for a trend company, I know is probably quite strange, but all will be revealed as to why we feel this way and why this is actually one of our sort of strongest motivating forces when we think about that. So we are the Better Trends Company. My name is Louise Healy-Adonis. I am the head of trends and forecasting, and we feel super passionate about, like I said, democratizing trends. And we are really happy to talk a lot more in detail about this, but we'll give you a bit of background first. I'll pass over to Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie Alexander. I am the design director for the Better Trends Company, and I very much sit behind a computer all day, so this is slightly out of my comfort zone. So we work with small and medium-sized businesses on redoing branding, creating branding for them. We have bespoke prints. We can design packaging, so we have that side of the business too, where we do a lot of trend-led designs for clients as well.
And the reason why we started the company, I guess we should tell the story, right?
Yeah. So a few years ago at Top Drawer, 2020, just before the pandemic hit, Louise was working, well, you were giving a trends talk, weren't you? And I have my own small stationery business, so I was facing the trends area, and then after you'd given your talk, I very much sat there and complained to you about how as a small business owner, it was really hard for me to get access to trends. I didn't have the thousands of pounds subscription that a lot of the larger agencies have. So just really trying to find out from you where...
Yeah, you grilled me.
I did, I grilled you. I'm sorry about that. But it worked out in the end. So yeah, we just kept in touch after that, and then started this because we just felt there was a real gap in the market for people within those spaces, small and medium-sized businesses that didn't have the funds to have the subscriptions to the larger agencies.
Yeah, 100%. So my background, I've always worked for really large agencies. I'm sure you've heard of WGSN, Stylus, Future Laboratory, those kind of really, really big guys, and similar agencies. So we've always had clients who have those funds. And so when Natalie approached me a couple of years ago and was like, what about small and medium enterprises? And it was just a real light switch moment. And talking more and more, the more we spoke, the more we were like, well, hang on, this is really interesting. Why is no one, facilitating trends, design information, consultancy, advice, strategy for people who really need it and don't have access to it? So hence the Better Trends Company was born, because not just because, we want to do better, we want to be better, we want to think about things in a responsible way, sustainable way, and a people and planet focused way. So that's what we're going to talk about as well when we think about why trends are dead. So if we move on to that subject, that's really the focus of, I guess, our values, our mission. So many people will say to us, trends, I never use them, I hate them, like it's ridiculous, like it doesn't mean anything to me. And that's where we do agree, trends are dead. So why are we a trends company? Aha. So where many people focus, that's the problem, on what's, the latest thing. what can I do? What's on trend? And actually, if we zoom out and think of trends in a much more consumer-focused, people and planet-focused way, that's where we feel trends are actually headed and should be headed, and not chasing, but being part of culture and society. So trends are movements. If we actually think about what the word trend means, it actually means a movement, a trajectory. You probably heard incoming, outgoing, uptrending, downtrending. All those words are movements. So trends are never still. There's something happening. What makes it happen is people. So, if you have a business, your business is probably to do with some people at some point. You have customers. You have people who work for you. You deal with people. So I refuse to say that you don't deal with trends, because trends are people. The way we think about trends has to change. That's the difference. Chasing these micro, small trends or particular product-focused trends is something that is not beneficial to anyone, and something that Natalie's going to speak to in a second. But we really promote zooming out, thinking about what's happening in culture. What is happening in, what's this gallery doing? What is, a certain person doing at the forefront of culture that's really inspiring? And how can we tell by connecting all these dots of people at the forefront of culture what then is coming next? What are people seeing? What's inspiring them? What politician is inspiring people? How does that make them then feel? It can be a celebrity, but it also can be the person in your community that is doing something really socially innovative, and it's inspiring the way your customer feels. So what we do is harness those movements, those trends, and really consolidate that and bring it down. I tend to use my hands a lot. So if we're up here, and we're thinking about big cultural and societal movements in trends, what does that mean to your customer? What does that mean for your product, your color, the feeling, the mood, the theme? And that's really where we take our trends from. We will never go from the bottom up. It's always top down, because then it's meaningful and it's engaging. And that is something that you want. You want your consumers, you want your clients, you want your customer to feel engaged, like purposeful. You want them to feel like you understand them and what you have to offer is relevant. So that's why we are saying trends are dead, but long live trends. That's the kind of overview, and we'll give you a few examples.
Yeah, so we don't believe in the colour of the year. We know there's research behind it. They've taken a long time to figure out what that colour of the year is, but we just feel that there's so much pressure for companies then to produce things in all this colour of the year, and then it ultimately doesn't serve anyone, because you're then left with a product that's not necessarily correct for your customer, and then you have to do markdowns. It's just a real waste. The waste side of it too is just really doesn't sit well with us. And as an alternative to that, to have a range of colours, to have like harmonious colours that work together, that you can pick and choose what works for your customer, what doesn't work for your customer. There are plenty of colours for you to choose, and you know your customer best, not Pantone doesn't know your customer best. So, and ultimately, why does everyone want to look the same?
I think that point again about waste is really important when we're saying people and planet. And of course, the idea of being sustainable is bandied around a lot, but what does that actually mean? Well, it means, again, planning your assortments and your ranges the way, if you're a designer or whether you're a buyer, not to be wasteful and not to have so many markdowns. It's not beneficial for any company to do that. But by having such small and narrow parameters like the colour of the year, you must have this. You must have this particular item. The idea must have item, which is used a lot in fashion, of course, and is moving into home and interiors market much more so. Those kind of things, again, very media-driven, very market-driven, but ultimately unhelpful, because individuality is something that is a huge, I suppose, lifestyle trend that we're seeing emerge. So how can you support your customer whilst, showing that you are trend-led without dictating what a trend should? Because ultimately, if you're sticking to the colour of the year and the colour of the year is whatever it is, then you're just going to look the same as everyone else. And also, you're going to end up with a load of stock that not everyone's going to want to buy because you're not individual. And you're going to have to do markdown. It's wasteful, it's pollution, and it's a waste of money. So that is why, like Nat said, when we create trends, it's really advice. It's never dictating. And yes, we will produce colours and shapes and forms and patterns that feel right for the moment. Like we said, we're doing top-down movements from culture and society, but they're not dictating. You can take that part of it and ensure that your range, your assortment, your designs are feeling relevant and timely, and even forward, depending on, are you mass, are you forward-thinking, who is your consumer? But ultimately, it's never going to dictate and rule your life. We feel the colour of the year perhaps sometimes does, and that's feedback we've had from a lot of clients as well. I don't know what to do, should I use the colour of the year? What shall I, do I have to have that silhouette? Do I have to use that material?
And I think also from the feedback that we've had from people is when they're using the trends that we've got, say, on the at the trend space at the moment, and this is something that I've very much learned from you, is that just evolves. It doesn't completely change. So in 6 months' time, that's not going to change to something else. And I think that's really how people feel about trends, and that's why we get a lot of pushback when we do mention that we're a trend company, and people sort of, we have that feedback that, well, I don't follow trends. But I think if you can sort of see it as that the colours evolve and the design evolve, but it's not all starting from scratch every time, I think that's really something that was new to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's everything, lots of people have said, everything feels really fast. Social media is, everything's super fast. Actually, stuff is kind of slowed down because there's so much stuff. Overarching messages are still the same. It's the fact that people feel they have to chase all the micro. If you actually pull back, which is our advice, and look at bigger ideas of gender fluidity, sustainable initiatives, individuality, expressions, and those kind of big ideas are moving through culture at a very slow rate. They're not really changing that much. So, if you're looking at them, what colours represent or what moods, they just evolve slowly. And of course, the problem with trends is that we see a TikTok trend or, a social media trend or, what we were talking about the other day, cores.
Yes. Everything core.
Exactly. Core, everyone's over core. So you might have heard of Barbie core or goth core or fairy core or any of the cores that are on TikTok. Night Lux, any of these things, cottage core, that's been a big one over the past couple of years. I'm sure you've heard of cottage core, even if you don't, follow any TikTok trends. The point is that there's something new every week and it feels super fast. But if you pull back and you're not completely absorbed with, I have to know what's on, again, it's very youth focused, and trends can be synonymous with youth. And that in itself is wrong. Trends, like we said, are people. And of course, you might have a different demographic as your customer. It does depend who your customer is. But by, relentlessly following or thinking that you should keep up with what these trends are, what are people doing, what hashtag do I need, it's pointless, and it's kind of reductive because, again, it's chasing something that is just so widely disseminated. There's thousands of different trends at any one time across social media, across music, across culture, that, in a way, if you're chasing a very, very small trend, it's pointless. There's nothing. Nothing is a trend because there's so many things, which, again, why we are saying pull back, think about the movements, think about meaningful. What are you trying to say? What are your brand values? And how does that then mean that you should or could align with some of the larger trend ideas which translate into certain palettes, whether it's, if we go into our... Shall we give some examples from... It's weird because they're not here, but if you go into Hall 1, you'll see them. If you give some examples, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we've got 3 trends that we're showing here. 2 were more current trends for 2023. We've got modern psychedelic, so very much 70s inspired, psychedelic, like really bright colours, but we've grounded them a bit more with like a navy blue and a dark green. So that's very much taking the retro look, but then making it very modern by the color palette that we've used.
Yeah, and it's a thing of, so what does that speak to? We haven't just pulled that out of the air. So if we, thinking about the movements of having that sort of retro inspiration but making it modern, well, we're thinking about nostalgia, we're thinking about comfort, but also we've just come out of, the worst 2 years of many people's lives, and we need some joy. It's a reaction, the same way that the original psychedelic movement was a reaction. We're seeing people experiment with, mushrooms. Mushrooms are huge. So what are all these things in culture that are happening, and how does that translate? It doesn't mean we're just reiterating and copying something from the 60s and 70s. It means we're looking at it in a new context. So if you go, you'll see the colours that Nat just described. They're grounding, they're fresh. You've got some beautiful, luxurious, comforting tones, and then you have some really fresh, zingy, white and brights, which feel contemporary, which feel relevant, which feel joyful, which feel expressive, and also slightly escapist, which, I think we all need as well. A little bit of imagination and joy and fun. So again, you can see the meaning. They're not just us saying, hey, you should definitely use this because it's on trend. It has to be grounded in something that means something to people. Then they will emotionally resonate with it and connect. Now, again, modern psychedelic might not be your customer at all. We've had people like, oh, it's very bright, or. Of course, there's certain ways that you can use it, right?
Yeah, if you go and look on the stand, we've got the dark blue velvet chairs with like a poppy yellow on it. So there's definitely ways that you can tailor it to your customer. It doesn't have to be the lime green. Yeah,
doesn't have to be all lime green.
I feel like a lot of people don't like that lime green. They're a bit like, whoa. Yeah, but then, so following on from that one, we've got the Dream Wave, which is the 2024 trend.
In the future.
And so that's when I was talking about the trends evolving, that's what that one's going to evolve to.
Yeah, it's a really literal kind of way to see it as well. So nothing just starts and stops. We all evolve as humans, and the things we're interested in, we build on. So that's exactly what we do with our trend. So you can see, moving from the modern psychedelic this year, next year, we've got amazing interactive kind of video that you can watch that gives you lots of kind of moods and colours and shapes and forms to build on. So 2024, we're going to release our macro trends report next week, which is, so Dreamwave is a huge part of that, one of our key trend movements, which really builds on the idea of escapism, moving into quite a dream world. And that comes from the ideas that we've just spoken about of modern psychedelic, escapism, joy coming out of a perma-crisis. If we're out of it, probably not. But needing that moment. But also, we're looking at what's happening in culture. So technology, AI generation in aesthetics, and obviously, I don't know if anyone's used, any kind of chat, GTP chat. Has anyone used that? Has anyone used Midjourney, DALL-E? All of these AI generative programs are really popular at the moment. And so people that are using them, who are at the forefront of this type of culture, are creating new aesthetics that are very dreamlike and that we haven't seen before because we've never collaborated in this way with AI technology before. It's now accessible in the same way that we are seeing a lot of democratization across other elements, and social media is making a lot more things accessible. AI technology is allowing creative people to experiment and really generate aesthetics and shapes and ideas that they couldn't physically kind of create themselves before. So if you've never experimented one of these programs, find someone that maybe has it on their phone or download it and have a go. So you can just, for those of you who don't know what it is, you can type in any prompts. So you could say any words you wanted. You can say cat, tree, rug, and it'll generate from these prompts a culmination of all these ideas and present to you a very original aesthetic, an artwork, an idea. You can say put person, climbing, stairs, tropical, purple, and it will give you these random generated visuals. So again, lots of them are very strange and very dreamlike, and that's where we're seeing a lot of creatives move in their aesthetics, which again, taking those ideas from modern psychedelic, escapism, dreamlike, those, you can see there's an evolution there. Again, trends don't start and stop, they evolve. So that's a really good example of the way that happens. We've skipped the other one. Do you want to take over there?
Yeah, we skipped the other 2023 trend. Sorry, that one's been really popular here, actually. So the other one is called Rhythmic Form, and it's basically a take on geo. So where we saw the sort of abstract geo last year, that's moved into just a more rhythmic geometric patterns. We've got a lot of products that are very textured, haven't we? And just really about that rhythm, just it's not so tightly woven, it's very much, it's quite free flowing, but it's still got that rhythm about it. And that's, I think you keep using the term meditative, don't you? That it really does feel like that with some of the products that we've chosen.
It's calming, isn't it?
Calming.
It feels like, again, a reaction to what's happening in culture and society and where we've been, instead of, again, depending on your customer. So we've talked about this kind of joyful escapism, but there's also ideas of nesting, comfort, being at home, wanting to retreat. And there's a real development from the sort of noughties sterility of the grage and very minimalist ideas of what that constitutes. Moving into a warmer minimalism, it's still quite, reduced in a way. There's not a huge amount of maximalism, but there's some really beautiful geos, there's building on texture, there's meditative in the form and the repeating patterns. So there's something which feels, I suppose, structured, where we haven't had a lot of structure, or we've had very different ways of living for the past few years. This gives both a structure, a reassurance, a meditative quality, but a warmth to it. So we've got a lot of grounding, earthy tones that kind of build on each other.
Yeah, and then we've also got the darker tones in there that kind of ground that one as well. I really like the blue on that one.
We all need a bit of grounding.
We do.
So again, I think that kind of illustrates where we're taking everything when we say, coming back to the start of the talk, trends are dead, long live trends. It's not that we don't believe in trends, we just believe that people are trends, and that trends are not these abstract things that you must chase and look for and feel that you have to implement in some way in your buying process, in your assortment, in your designs, when you feel under pressure to do so, because that's really not helpful for anyone, and it's not what we advocate as the Better Trends company. So I hope that is helpful in our approach, and I don't know if anyone has any questions they would like to ask us. I'm all for it. So the democratization of trends is something that we are advocating. You know, it's something that I think, I don't know how you feel about this or how anyone feels, but for far too long it seems something quite elitist and untouchable. And people were thinking, well, what are trends? How do you create trends? Oh, you know, trends, it's this strange ethereal thing, which is ridiculous because, as we've said, trends are just people and culture and things that are happening, and that's how we track it. But we're actually thinking about how to further democratize that rather than just making it accessible. How do we, as a forecaster and a designer together, show how it actually works and how you apply it, making it real?
Definitely, I think, and that's what we keep getting feedback from people as well, is just like we can demystify it for people. It's long been this unattainable thing, and that's literally why we started the company, because I, as a small business owner, didn't have access to that trends. Having worked in corporate jobs and having had that, you know, the memberships to the larger companies, I just then didn't have any access to it. By the time a lot of this stuff gets on Pinterest and various other places, you're already behind. So just to get in front of that was just something we felt really strongly about, and that's the reason why we started the Better
And why
Trends
shouldn't SMEs have it? In our view, SMEs are the future of retail, not the big guys. They're not contributing to our planet and our people in a better way. SMEs are, and they're the future, we think. So they need the help. Any other thoughts? Hey. I think so. Pinterest trend reports are helpful to a degree, but essentially they're just collating their own data, so they're in an echo chamber of what they offer. to a degree. So I think they are helpful because they're showing what's happening in a certain space, and the people that interact with it are obviously liking certain things and their groupings. So I don't think it's unhelpful. I think that it's interesting, but again, it's not something to say is the only thing that's happening. I think, again, with everything, it's one point in culture, and you've got to look at everything that's happening across culture to then understand a slightly bigger picture. But again, it's a really helpful piece of information. So yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question because, as we've said, or as I'm sure you know as well, the trends do seem to be focused on a youth market a lot of the time. And then we're encouraged as a society to chase youth. And that's not always right for our customer, especially when, recent data has focused a lot on, for instance, sort of the middle age, especially middle-aged females, and people who identify as female are really left out of that market and have a lot of disposable income. So there are demographics which I think need to be uplifted, have a focus on. Having said that, lots of really interesting cultural points do happen, generated by creatives who happen to be young designers, for instance. So there's just a balance, I think, that needs to be reached. And you also have to understand who you're designing for, who you're buying for. Because you can be a 65-year-old and be at the forefront of culture. Look at Yayoi Kusama's installation with Louis Vuitton. She's a fabulous artist who is an elderly female who is influencing younger designers and what they do. So again, we should never just have the one thing is that, the one thing is the trend. We need to look across all of culture, all of ages, and all of society to figure out, okay, what's happening, what's interesting. And I'm really glad that bigger brands like Louis Vuitton are looking not just at supporting younger creatives, which they still should, of course, but supporting all creatives and all people who can really just show us interesting, fun things, because surely that's actually what it's all about at the end of the day. Interesting, gorgeous, fun things that make us feel good, that have a utility, but also just inspire us. And that can come from anywhere. Anything else? No? Well, thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. Thank you. And of course, if you need any more info, you can contact us at thebettertrendscompany.com, message us, sign up to our newsletter, or the other promo. Thank you.